Jack and the Beanstalk, from the Usborne Fairy Tale Library. Once there was a mother and her son Jack. They lived in a sad, tumble-down cottage and were desperately poor. Every day their life grew worse. The mother sold everything she had to get money, her hens and geese and most of the furniture. She even sold the knives and forks. Only their cow, Milky White, was left, though she was old and gave hardly any milk. Jack's mother wept at the empty rooms, but Jack skipped around, laughing. "This is fun!" "There's more to life than fun, you silly boy," snapped his mother. "You're hopeless." "I'm not," said Jack. His mother sighed. "You'll have to take Milky White to market tomorrow, Jack. We can't afford to feed her. And mind you get a good price." So the next day, Jack led Milky White along the road, dreaming of the wonderful things he'd buy with the money he'd make. On the way, he met a strange-looking man with a wild, long beard and penetrating eyes. "What a fine animal," said the man. "Here's a bargain for you, boy. You give me the cow, and I'll give you these." And putting his hand in his pocket, he drew out 5 large, shining beans. "Not enough," began Jack. The man wagged a bony finger. "She's not a young cow, is she? Not much milk there. No one will buy her. You'd better take my beans. They're special." Jack thought about it. Yes, Milky White was past her best, and the beans had seemed to glow. So he exchanged the cow for the beans and went home. "How much did you get?" his mother asked, pouncing on him as he stepped through the door. Jack opened his fist to show her, the beans now looking ordinary in his hand. "How could you be so daft?" she shouted. She snatched the beans and threw them out of the window. "We're even worse off now, and it's all your fault. You can't even sell a cow." They both went supperless to bed, the mother silent with disappointment. And Jack? "I'm not hopeless," he thought angrily before he went to sleep. "Just wait and see." When he woke, his room was dark as night. "That's odd," he thought, "because I've slept long enough for it to be morning." He peered out of the window. At least, he tried to. The window was completely blocked by enormous leaves. Pushing them aside, he saw they sprang from a mass of thick stalks twisted together so that they made a ladder. Upward stretched the ladder in a winding green chain, up and up into the sky, until it was lost in the puffy white clouds of infinity. The whole garden was in shadow. "The garden," thought Jack. "That's it! Mother threw out the beans, and they've grown in the night. They must have been magic beans, and that man was a magician. I wonder where the beanstalk leads to." He dressed quickly and tested out the beanstalk. Each step enticed him onto the next. He felt as fast and light and nimble as a lizard running up a wall. Higher and higher he climbed among the rustling leaves until the air grew colder and clearer and the sky more blue. At last he reached the clouds, and there the beanstalk came to an end. He stepped off into land, barren as a desert, not a tree nor bush nor living thing to be seen. No houses, no shops, nothing familiar at all. Jack was exhausted, but he didn't want to go home without exploring. "There must be something here," he reasoned. On he trudged. Eventually, he spied a huge castle. He marched to the door, climbed up to ring the bell, and scrambled back down. The door opened slowly, and an enormous woman poked her head out, looking very surprised. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Don't you know this is a giant's castle? My husband eats people. He's out now hunting for fresh human flesh. You'd make a nice little first course. Why have you come?"
I'm hungry," stammered Jack. "I'm sorry to disturb you, but could you spare something for me to eat? And don't let him eat me, madam. I beg you."
She thought for a moment, then beckoned him in. "I'll hide you in the bread oven. You're a polite boy. Brave, too. Yes, you're worth saving." She led him through a vast hall to a massive kitchen that smelled of newly baked bread, opened the oven, and shoved Jack in with a plate of warm crusts. Then she clanged the grill door shut. Just in time. In thumped the giant, huffing like a gale-force wind, his footsteps thudding like thunderclaps. "Wife, bring me food," he boomed, slumping onto an enormous chair. The woman sprang forward with plates tottering with hunks of meat, whole cabbages, entire cakes, and bowls of pudding. "Slurp, chomp, chew, swallow," went the giant until he was satisfied, and let out a stinky burp so evil-smelling that Jack, quivering in the oven, felt sick. Then, sniffing the air, the giant started to bellow. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman."
"I don't think you do, dear," said his wife. "No one's been here all day."
"Oh, all right," said the giant. "Bring me my hen." Jack stared as the wife brought out an ordinary brown hen. She set it on the table before him, and every time the giant said, "Lay," the hen squatted and produced a golden egg. The giant played with the hen all evening until he had a pile of golden eggs. "That's enough," he yawned at last, revealing huge yellow teeth, and he stomped out of the kitchen with his wife. Jack held himself still until he was sure they weren't coming back. Then he hopped out of the oven, seized the hen, and ran out of the kitchen, through the vast hall, out the door, across the barren wastes, and down the beanstalk into his own garden. He raced inside to tell his mother where he'd been. "Look at this! Lay, lay, lay," he commanded, and a stream of eggs dropped from the hen in a golden cascade. "Oh, Jack, you clever boy!" she exclaimed, clapping her hands with joy. "Now we can mend the roof, buy food. We'll be comfortable." And so they were. But after only a few weeks, Jack started to grow restless. "I'm going up the beanstalk again, Mother. I won't be long." "Must you? Will you be safe? That giant will want revenge." "I'll outwit him," Jack said with a laugh. "I'll dye my hair and change my clothes. I'll be fine. You'll see." So Jack climbed the beanstalk to the castle and knocked sharply on a door. Again the giant's wife answered. "Could you spare me a crust of bread?" whined Jack in a completely different accent. "I'm not sure," she said. "A boy came here not so long ago who turned out to be a little thief." "I'm not like that," coaxed Jack. "Oh, please." At last she consented, and this time she hid him in the kitchen dresser cupboard. Jack crouched there all evening, watching through a hole in the wood as the giant stomped in and gulped down his supper. Then, just as before, he sniffed the air and trumpeted. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "You're always right, dear," said his wife. "Just not good with smells. There's no one here." "Oh, all right," said the giant. "Bring me my money bags." The wife brought him 2 bags and left the room. Chuckling, the giant tipped the contents onto the table in a jingling, glittering heap. He counted the coins for ages, then tied them up again in the bags and dozed off snoring. Rattle,
spittle, whoosh, sounded the snores. When Jack was certain that the giant's sleep was as profound as the deep blue sea and the snores as regular as waves crashing to shore, he crept from the cupboard, grabbed both bags, and raced home. "Look what I've got this time, Mother!" he shouted. "Money!" And he emptied the coins into her lap. "Real rich!" she whispered, clinking them through her fingers in a shining waterfall. "You're a wonderful son!" They lived happily for a few months, until Jack began to long to go up the beanstalk again. "Don't, Jack," begged his mother. "It's dangerous, and we have more than enough." "But I want to," said Jack, kissing her goodbye and beginning his climb. As before, he persuaded the giant's wife to take him in. This time, she hid him in the sink. Jack watched the giant guzzle a mound of pies and gulp so much ale that he swayed where he sat. Then he roared in a thick voice, "Wife, I really do smell fresh meat." He stumbled around the kitchen, feeling in every crevice till he reached the sink. Luckily, he couldn't concentrate properly, and every time he touched Jack slid away from his jabbing, questing fingers in slimy rivers of soap bubbles. "I'm sure I felt something," muttered the giant. "Never mind, dear," soothed his wife, drying his hands, placing a golden harp in them and leading him to his chair. The giant sank down with a sigh. "Play," he ordered, and the harp began to play, all by itself, such wonderful music that Jack yearned to listen to it for the rest of his life. "Stop," murmured the giant, and as the music ceased, he was fast asleep and snoring. Rattle, spittle, whoosh. Jack hauled himself out of the sink, seized the harp, and began to run. But the harp's magic was not yet done. "Master!" it called out. "Master! Help me!" Instantly the giant awoke. "My precious harp!" he yelled, lumbering after Jack. He roared with anger as he saw Jack disappear down the beanstalk. "You're the one!" he yelled, shaking his fist. "It was you! You stole my hen and my money and now my harp. I'll get you!" Grabbing hold of the swaying beanstalk, he started to climb. Down the beanstalk whizzed Jack as fast as he could. Carefully he set down the harp, then shouted, "Bring out one of the axes, Mother! Please, hurry!" The whack! Jack hacked fiercely at the beanstalk. It shook. It swayed. It snapped. The giant tumbled to the ground, dead. After that, Jack and his mother lived in peace and comfort, and everywhere Jack went he was known as Jack the Bold, the boy who climbed the beanstalk and made his mother smile. The end.